The cleaning cart squeaked down the pristine marble hallway of the Galactic Council building. Marcus Chin pushed it with steady hands, his blue uniform crisp despite the early morning hour. Most beings barely noticed janitors, which suited him perfectly. As the third son of Emperor Zhao Chun of the Dragon Territories, invisibility had become his greatest asset. The Dragon Territories controlled 12 star systems and commanded the largest fleet in the known galaxy. For 3,000 years, the Qin dynasty had ruled with wisdom and strength. Everyone expected Marcus to follow his father's path, take his place in the royal hierarchy, and eventually compete with his brothers for succession. Instead, Marcus chose a mop and bucket. 3 years ago, he had walked away from palace life. No grand announcement, no dramatic confrontation with his father. He simply submitted his resignation from royal duties through proper channels and applied for a custodial position with Galactic Maintenance Services. The scandal had rocked the imperial court, but Marcus had never looked back. The Galactic Council building housed representatives from 47 different species. Each morning, Marcus arrived before dawn to prepare the meeting chambers. He understood the building's rhythms better than anyone. He knew which delegates preferred their offices at precise temperatures, which species required specific atmospheric adjustments, and where important conversations happened when beings thought no one was listening. Today felt different. The air hummed with tension as delegates arrived earlier than usual. The Zirian ambassador's scales displayed stress patterns Marcus had learned to recognize. The Altarian trade minister's tentacles twitched with nervous energy. Something big was developing. Marcus entered conference room 7 to clean before the morning session. The chamber could accommodate 200 beings, with environmental controls for dozens of different atmospheric requirements. As he dusted the translator units, fragments of conversation reached his ears. The humans cannot be allowed to continue their expansion, hissed Ambassador Vexstar of the Reptilian Coalition. They grow too bold, too quickly. Representative Quill of the Feathered Worlds chirped agreement. Their technological advancement threatens the established order. In merely 5 centuries, they have spread across dozens of systems. Marcus continued his work, invisible to the gathering delegates. His father's empire maintained peaceful relations with humanity. The Dragon Territories had been among the first to recognize human potential when they joined galactic society. But other powers viewed humanity's rapid growth with suspicion and fear. The Human Federation representative, Ambassador Sarah Mitchell, entered the chamber. She was young for a diplomat, perhaps 40 Earth years, with the determined expression Marcus had come to associate with her species. Humans approached problems differently than other galactic civilizations. Where most species planned in decades or centuries, humans adapted and innovated in real time. Ambassador Mitchell, Vexstar's voice carried barely concealed hostility. We were discussing trade regulations. Marcus knew better. He had cleaned their private offices and heard the real conversations. A coalition of older galactic powers was forming against humanity. They planned to use trade restrictions, territorial disputes, and diplomatic pressure to force humans back to their original 12 systems. As the formal session began, Marcus positioned himself near the ventilation access panel. His cleaning duties gave him legitimate reasons to be anywhere in the building. The advantage of being underestimated had served him well throughout his exile from royal life. The session proceeded through standard agenda items, but Marcus detected the underlying currents of tension. Speeches about galactic stability and responsible expansion targeted humanity without naming them directly. The coalition was building consensus for action against the Human Federation. When the session broke for lunch, Marcus wheeled his cart toward the restricted communications area. His royal clearances had never been revoked and oversight by imperial bureaucracy that he had never corrected. The communications center buzzed with encrypted transmissions as various species coordinated their diplomatic offensive. He accessed a monitoring station and reviewed recent intelligence reports. The coalition's plans were more advanced than anyone realized. They intended to impose a complete trade embargo on humanity within 60 days. The economic pressure would force humans to accept territorial limitations and technology transfer restrictions. Marcus understood the implications immediately. Humanity's rapid expansion had been fueled by their unique approach to problem-solving and innovation. Forcing them into stagnation would benefit the established powers but would ultimately weaken galactic civilization. Other species brought valuable perspectives, but humans possessed a drive and adaptability that pushed everyone forward.
The afternoon brought more disturbing developments.
The Centaurian Defense League announced military exercises near human space.
The Aquatic Alliance restricted access to water-rich systems essential for human colony development.
Each action appeared independent, but Marcus recognized the coordinated strategy.
By evening, the pattern was clear.
The coalition intended to strangle human expansion through economic and military pressure. They would present this as protecting galactic stability while eliminating their most dynamic competition. Marcus returned to his small apartment in the service sector of the station. The quarters were modest compared to his former palace rooms, but he had found peace in simplicity. His neighbors were maintenance workers, food service employees, and junior staff from various species. They treated him as just another working being, which was exactly what he wanted. He prepared his evening meal and considered his options. As a janitor, he had no official voice in galactic affairs. As an exiled prince, he had abandoned his right to speak for the Dragon territories. But, as someone who understood both human potential and galactic politics, he possessed unique insight into the developing crisis. His communication device chimed with a message from his father. Emperor Zhaochen maintained weekly contact despite Marcus's chosen exile. The messages were usually brief updates about family affairs or imperial business. Tonight's message was different. "My son," the Emperor's voice carried across the light years with familiar warmth. "Events are moving in the galactic arena that may require our attention.
The Dragon territories have always valued wisdom over tradition.
I trust your judgment, wherever your path may lead." Marcus smiled at his father's subtle message. The Emperor knew his son was positioned to observe galactic affairs and trusted him to act appropriately. The Dragon territories would support whatever decision Marcus made, even if it came from a janitor rather than a prince. The next morning brought accelerated activity throughout the council building. Emergency sessions were called, and delegates rushed through corridors with urgent expressions. Marcus performed his duties while monitoring the unfolding situation.
The coalition's ultimatum was delivered during the afternoon session.
Humanity had 30 days to accept territorial restrictions and submit to technology oversight. Failure to comply would result in complete economic isolation and potential military action.
Ambassador Mitchell's response was measured but firm.
"The Human Federation will consider your proposal and respond within the specified timeframe.
We remain committed to peaceful coexistence and mutual prosperity."
Marcus knew the humans were buying time to develop their response. They would not submit to restrictions that would cripple their civilization, but they also understood the military reality. The coalition commanded superior numbers and resources. That evening, Marcus made his decision. He had spent 3 years learning to be invisible, gathering information while living in self-imposed exile.
Now circumstances demanded action.
The galaxy needed the human drive for innovation and exploration, but humanity needed allies who understood their value. He drafted a communication to his father, outlining the coalition's plans and requesting permission to act on behalf of the Dragon territories.
The Emperor's response came within hours. Proceed with full imperial authority.
The Dragon territories stand with justice and progress. Marcus began reaching out to contacts throughout the galactic community. 3 years of invisible observation had taught him which beings truly supported galactic progress over political convenience. The Alarian Republic valued human technological partnerships.
The Silicon Confederacy appreciated human adaptability. The plasma beings had developed profitable trade relationships with human colonies. Not all species opposed humanity's expansion. Many simply remained silent while the vocal coalition dominated the debate. Marcus began building a counter-coalition, using his network of service workers and junior staff to carry messages between sympathetic delegates. The advantage of being underestimated worked both ways. The coalition ignored potential opposition from lesser species and overlooked the influence of support staff who actually managed galactic communications and logistics. By the third day, Marcus had identified 43 species willing to oppose the coalition's ultimatum. Many had remained silent not from hostility toward humanity, but from fear of challenging the established powers. With the Dragon territories providing leadership, they found courage to speak. The counter-proposal was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of restricting human expansion, the galaxy should embrace it while ensuring all species benefited from human innovation. Technology sharing programs, joint exploration missions, and expanded trade opportunities would strengthen galactic civilization rather than dividing it.
Marcus presented the proposal through proper diplomatic channels, identifying himself as Prince Marcus Chen, special representative of the Dragon Territories. The revelation sent shockwaves through the galactic community. The exiled prince had returned to politics, but on his own terms and with his own agenda. The coalition's leaders demanded an immediate meeting with the Dragon Territories delegation. They expected to negotiate with traditional imperial representatives who followed established protocols. Instead, they faced a former janitor who understood their private communications and had spent 3 years learning the real power structure of galactic politics. The confrontation would come soon, but Marcus felt ready. His exile had taught him patience, observation, and the value of understanding systems from the ground up. The coalition might command traditional power, but Marcus had something more valuable: the ability to see clearly without the distortion of privilege and assumption. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the most powerful voice comes from the most unexpected source. The emergency session convened at dawn, filling conference room 7 with representatives from 67 species. Marcus stood at the Dragon Territories delegation table, his blue janitor's uniform replaced by the simple black robes of an imperial representative. The transformation surprised many, but his 3 years of invisible observation had prepared him for this moment. Ambassador Vextar of the Reptilian Coalition led the opposition. His scales displayed aggressive patterns as he addressed the assembly. The Dragon Territories have broken protocol by sending an unauthorized representative to interfere with legitimate galactic governance. Marcus remained standing as murmurs filled the chamber. He had learned patience during his years of cleaning these same floors, and he used that stillness now. When the noise subsided, he spoke with quiet authority. I am Prince Marcus Chen, third son of Emperor Zhao Chen, duly appointed special representative of the Dragon Territories. My credentials were submitted through proper channels 3 days ago. This assembly has already acknowledged my authority to speak on behalf of my father's empire. The legal objection collapsed immediately. The Galactic Charter required only proper notification and imperial authorization, both of which Marcus had provided. His unusual background might surprise them, but his position was unassailable. Representative Quill of the Feathered Worlds chirped nervously. This is highly irregular. The prince has no diplomatic experience. Marcus smiled slightly, thinking of the hundreds of hours he had spent listening to these same beings plan their coalition in secret. I have observed this body's operations for 3 years. Perhaps my experience is different from traditional diplomatic training, but I understand how this assembly functions. The Human Federation's Ambassador Mitchell watched the proceedings with careful attention. She had not been informed of the Dragon Territories' intervention, but she recognized an unexpected ally when she saw one. The timing suggested coordination, though she could not imagine how a janitor-turned-prince had become humanity's defender. Marcus activated the central display system, projecting economic data across multiple screens throughout the chamber. His years maintaining the building's technical systems had taught him to operate every piece of equipment. The data showed clear patterns of galactic growth and innovation over the past 5 centuries. The evidence is undeniable, Marcus began, his voice carrying throughout the chamber. Species that have embraced human partnerships show measurable improvements in technological advancement, economic growth, and territorial development. The Ilarian Republic has doubled their energy efficiency through human collaboration. The Silicon Confederacy has expanded their computational networks by 300% using human innovation techniques. The data continued flowing across the screens. Marcus had spent weeks compiling the information using his access to galactic databases. The pattern was consistent across dozens of species and hundreds of colonies. Human expansion has not weakened galactic civilization, Marcus continued. It has strengthened every species willing to engage with their different approach to problem solving. The proposed restrictions would damage not just humanity, but every species that benefits from their partnerships. Ambassador Vextar's scales darkened with frustration. Human expansion threatens established territorial boundaries and trade agreements. Their rapid growth disrupts galactic stability. Marcus had expected this argument and prepared his response carefully. Stability built on stagnation is not strength. It is decay disguised as wisdom. The galaxy faces challenges that require innovation and adaptation. Climate disasters, resource depletion, and technological limitations affect every species.
Human approaches to these problems have provided solutions that benefit all galactic citizens. The projection changed to display specific examples. Human terraforming techniques had restored failed colonies for 6 different species. Human medical innovations had eliminated diseases that had plagued entire star systems for millennia. Human engineering solutions had improved space travel efficiency for every galactic civilization. The choice before this assembly is simple, Marcus declared. We can restrict human expansion and accept gradual decline, or we can embrace their contributions and strengthen galactic civilization for all species. The Centaurian Defense League representative, General Corax, stood with military bearing. Human military capabilities threatened the balance of power. Their fleets grow stronger each year. Marcus had cleaned the general's office many times and understood his concerns. The Human Federation has never initiated military action against any galactic species. Their fleet expansion responds to territorial growth and exploration missions. Every human military vessel operates under galactic law and international treaty obligations. He changed the display to show military deployment patterns. Human fleets were distributed across their territory for defensive purposes and exploration missions. They had never concentrated forces for aggressive action against other species. General Corax speaks of balance, but what he truly fears is change, Marcus said, meeting the Centaurian's gaze directly. Human military doctrine emphasizes protection and exploration, not conquest. Their rapid technological advancement makes some nervous, but their actions demonstrate peaceful intentions. The debate continued for hours, with representatives from various species voicing concerns and support. Marcus answered each objection with data and evidence gathered during his 3 years of observation. His unique perspective, combining royal education with practical experience, allowed him to understand both the political dynamics and the operational realities. During a brief recess, Ambassador Mitchell approached the Dragon Territories delegation table. Prince Chen, I must admit surprise at your intervention on humanity's behalf. May I ask what motivated your support? Marcus considered his response carefully. I have watched this assembly for 3 years, Ambassador. I have seen how various species approach challenges and opportunities. Humanity brings something unique to galactic civilization, a willingness to try new solutions even when established methods exist. 3 years? Mitchell's eyes widened with understanding. You were the janitor. I remember seeing you in the corridors, but I never realized. Most beings do not notice custodial staff, Marcus replied with gentle humor. It provided excellent opportunities for observation and learning. I discovered that real power often flows through unexpected channels. When the session resumed, several species that had remained silent throughout the debate began speaking in support of the counter-proposal. The Aquatic Alliance representative announced their willingness to expand water-sharing agreements with human colonies. The Crystalline Confederation offered to establish joint research facilities for mineral extraction technologies. Marcus recognized the carefully orchestrated shift in opinion. His network of service workers had spent the recess period delivering messages and arranging private conversations between sympathetic delegates. The coalition's apparent strength began revealing cracks as previously silent species found their voices. The turning point came when Elder Zephyr of the Ancient Worlds rose to address the assembly. The Ancients rarely participated in galactic politics, preferring to observe from their isolated systems. When Elder Zephyr spoke, every being in the chamber listened with respectful attention. The Ancient Worlds have watched galactic civilization develop for 10,000 years, the Elder began, their voice carrying the weight of millennia. We have seen species rise and fall, empires expand and contract, and innovation drive progress forward. In our extensive observations, we have identified patterns that predict civilizational success or failure. The chamber fell completely silent. The Ancient Worlds possessed knowledge and wisdom that other species could only dream of accessing. Their rare pronouncements on galactic affairs carried enormous influence. The human approach to challenges demonstrates characteristics we have observed in the most successful galactic civilizations throughout history, Elder Zephyr continued. They adapt quickly to new circumstances. They seek innovative solutions to complex problems. They share their discoveries with willing partners. They explore unknown territories while maintaining respect for established boundaries. The Elder's gaze swept across the assembled representatives. The coalition's proposed restrictions would eliminate these beneficial characteristics from galactic civilization. The ancient worlds cannot support actions that would weaken the galaxy's capacity for growth and adaptation. The announcement sent shockwaves through the assembly. With the ancient worlds supporting humanity and the Dragon territories leading the opposition, the coalition's position became increasingly difficult to maintain. Ambassador Vextar made one final attempt to rally his supporters. The Reptilian Coalition remains committed to galactic stability. Human expansion must be controlled to prevent future conflicts.
Marcus stood once more, feeling the weight of 3 years' preparation behind his words. Ambassador Vextar speaks of stability, but what he proposes is stagnation.
The galaxy cannot grow stronger by limiting its most innovative members.
The Dragon territories propose a different path. The final vote was closer than Marcus had hoped but decisive nonetheless. 41 species supported the counterproposal, 35 opposed it, and 23 abstained. The coalition's ultimatum was formally rejected, and the assembly voted to establish expanded cooperation protocols with the Human Federation. As delegates filed out of the chamber, Marcus remained at his delegation table, processing the magnitude of what had just occurred. 3 years ago, he had walked away from imperial politics to find his own path. Today, he had returned to shape galactic policy and protect humanity's future. Ambassador Mitchell approached once more as the chamber emptied.
Prince Chen, the Human Federation owes you a debt of gratitude.
Your intervention may have prevented a devastating conflict. Marcus considered her words carefully.
Ambassador, I learned something important during my 3 years away from politics. Real leadership does not come from titles or traditional authority.
It comes from understanding systems and being willing to act when circumstances demand it.
Will you return to the Dragon territories now? Mitchell asked.
Marcus looked around the empty conference chamber, remembering the hundreds of hours he had spent cleaning these floors and listening to the conversations that shaped galactic policy.
I think my work here is just beginning. The galaxy needs bridges between different perspectives and approaches. Perhaps my unusual background allows me to build those bridges.
The immediate crisis had passed, but Marcus understood that larger challenges lay ahead.
The galaxy was changing, and not all species would adapt easily to new realities.
His role as an observer and mediator would become increasingly important as humanity continued its expansion and other species struggled to find their place in an evolving galactic community. 2 months after the vote, the first joint exploration mission launched from the Galactic Council's central shipyard. The expedition included vessels from 12 species, with human innovation specialists working alongside traditional exploration crews. Marcus watched the launch from the observation deck, noting how different species adapted their techniques to incorporate human methods. The success of his intervention had transformed his role completely. No longer an invisible janitor or exiled prince, Marcus had become the galaxy's unofficial mediator between human expansion and established civilizations. Species that had voted against the counterproposal now sought private meetings to discuss cooperation opportunities.
His office in the council building reflected his unique position.
Located between the diplomatic quarters and maintenance sections, it served beings from every level of galactic society.
Ambassadors consulted with him about human partnerships while custodial staff brought intelligence gathered during their daily routines. The morning brought his first major challenge since the vote.
3 human colonies in the Outer Rim had discovered massive mineral deposits that could revolutionize galactic manufacturing. The discovery triggered competing territorial claims from 4 different species, threatening to destabilize the region.
Marcus reviewed the intelligence reports while preparing his morning tea.
The Mineral Rights Commission would meet within the week to address the claims, but preliminary negotiations had already broken down.
Without resolution, the dispute could escalate into the first military conflict involving human territories.
A soft knock interrupted his review. Sarah Mitchell entered, carrying the weight of sleepless nights in her expression. The human ambassador had become a regular visitor as various species sought to test humanity's commitment to peaceful expansion. Prince Chen, we have a situation developing in the Kepler sector, Mitchell began without preamble. The Crystalline Confederation is mobilizing military vessels near our mining colonies. They claim ancient territorial rights supersede our exploration agreements. Marcus gestured for her to sit while accessing his database of territorial treaties. His 3 years of maintenance work had included the legal archives, giving him extensive knowledge of boundary agreements and exploration protocols. The Crystalline Confederation's claims are legally questionable, Marcus said after reviewing the documents. Their historical presence in the region predates modern territorial law, but they never filed formal claims under current galactic protocols. That may not matter if they decide to enforce their claims militarily, Mitchell replied with evident concern.
Human colonies are not equipped for major defensive operations. We've focused on exploration and development rather than military buildup. Marcus understood the dilemma perfectly.
Human expansion strategy relied on rapid colonization and peaceful integration with galactic law.
Military confrontation would undermine their entire approach while validating the coalition's earlier warnings about destabilization.
The communication system chimed with an incoming priority message from the Crystalline Confederation's capital world. Ambassador Quartz requested an immediate private meeting with Marcus, bypassing standard diplomatic channels. Within the hour, Ambassador Quartz materialized in Marcus's office through quantum transmission. The crystalline being's translucent form sparkled with nervous energy patterns that Marcus had learned to interpret during his maintenance years. Prince Chen, Quartz began in the harmonious tones of his species. The Confederation faces internal pressure regarding the Kepler sector discoveries.
Our mining guilds demand access to resources that could transform our industrial capacity. Marcus listened carefully, recognizing the political dynamics underlying the territorial dispute. Ambassador, the Confederation's concerns are understandable, but military action would violate multiple galactic treaties. Surely there are alternative approaches to resource access. Quartz's form shifted to display frustration patterns.
Our legal advisors insist that historical claims provide legitimate grounds for territorial enforcement. The mining guilds threaten political upheaval if the government appears weak in defending crystalline interests. The revelation explained the Confederation's aggressive posturing. Internal political pressure was driving foreign policy, creating potential for miscalculation and conflict. Marcus had observed similar patterns during his maintenance years, learning how domestic concerns often shaped galactic decisions.
What would satisfy your mining guilds while maintaining peaceful relations with humanity? Marcus asked directly.
Quartz paused, his crystalline structure resonating with uncertainty. Guaranteed access to mineral extraction rights would address their primary concerns. The guilds care more about resources than territorial control.
Marcus saw the solution immediately.
Human mining techniques were superior to traditional crystalline methods, but the Confederation possessed legitimate historical interests in the region. A partnership could benefit both species while establishing precedent for similar disputes.
Ambassador, would the Confederation consider a joint extraction agreement with humanity?
Human techniques could increase yield while crystalline historical knowledge could identify additional deposits.
Both species would benefit from the partnership.
The proposal required careful negotiation, but Marcus had learned to build bridges between seemingly incompatible positions. Over the following week, he facilitated discussions between human engineers and crystalline mining specialists, identifying mutual benefits and addressing concerns. The breakthrough came when human geologists demonstrated their scanning techniques to crystalline experts. The combination of human innovation and crystalline geological knowledge revealed deposit patterns that neither species could have discovered independently.
Ambassador Quartz returned to his government with a partnership proposal that exceeded his mining guild's expectations.
Instead of competing for limited access to known deposits, the collaboration promised to multiply available resources for both species.
The Kepler sector agreement was signed 3 weeks later, establishing the first formal joint extraction partnership between humanity and another galactic civilization.
The success attracted attention from dozens of species facing similar resource challenges. Marcus found himself managing an increasing number of consultation requests as word of the agreement spread throughout galactic space.
The Aquatic Alliance sought advice on water-sharing protocols with human agricultural colonies.
The Silicon Confederacy wanted to discuss computational resource exchanges.
Each negotiation taught him more about the complex dynamics of galactic civilization. Species that had coexisted peacefully for millennia struggled to adapt to humanity's different approaches to problem-solving and territorial development. Fear of change drove many conflicts, while practical cooperation often revealed unexpected benefits.
The most significant challenge emerged from an unexpected source.
The ancient worlds, despite supporting humanity during the initial vote, expressed concerns about rapid technological integration between species.
Elder Zephyr requested a private meeting to discuss their observations.
The ancient world's representative arrived through methods that defied current understanding of physics.
Elder Zephyr simply materialized in Marcus's office, as if stepping through space itself. The display of casual technological superiority reminded Marcus of the vast gaps between different civilizations' capabilities.
Prince Chen, the Elder began, our recent observations of human species integration have revealed concerning patterns. Some civilizations are adopting human methods without understanding the underlying principles.
Marcus had noticed similar issues in his mediation work.
Elder, are you referring to the accelerated technological adoption we've seen in several species? Precisely, Zephyr confirmed. The rapid growth syndrome has destroyed promising civilizations throughout galactic history. Species that advance too quickly often collapse when their social structures cannot adapt to new capabilities.
The warning carried enormous implications. Human partnerships were accelerating technological development across galactic space, but not all species possessed the social flexibility to integrate rapid change effectively.
What would you recommend, Elder?
Marcus asked, recognizing the gravity of the situation.
Measured integration, Zephyr replied.
Human innovation should be introduced gradually, allowing each species time to adapt their social and economic structures. The ancient worlds have developed protocols for managing civilizational advancement that could be adapted for current circumstances.
The proposal represented unprecedented cooperation from the ancient worlds. Throughout galactic history, they had shared their knowledge only rarely, preferring to observe other species' development from a distance.
Their willingness to provide guidance demonstrated the seriousness of their concerns. Marcus spent the following month developing integration protocols based on ancient worlds' wisdom and practical experience from recent human partnerships. The guidelines emphasized gradual implementation of new technologies with careful monitoring of social impacts. The protocols were tested first with the feathered worlds, a species eager to adopt human flight technologies but concerned about cultural implications. The measured approach allowed them to integrate new capabilities while preserving traditional values and social structures. Success with the feathered worlds encouraged other species to adopt similar approaches. Rather than rushing to implement every human innovation, civilizations began selecting technologies that complemented their existing capabilities and values. The careful integration strategy produced remarkable results across multiple species. The Aquatic Alliance improved their underwater cities using human engineering without abandoning their traditional architectural principles. The plasma beings enhanced their energy manipulation techniques while maintaining their unique cultural approaches to problem solving. Marcus found satisfaction in his role as facilitator and mediator, but he also recognized the limitations of individual intervention. The galaxy needed institutional structures to manage the accelerating pace of change and cooperation. He proposed the creation of a permanent integration council, combining human innovation specialists with representatives from established civilizations and guidance from the ancient worlds. The body would oversee technology sharing agreements and provide support for species adapting to rapid advancement. The proposal faced resistance from species that preferred traditional approaches to galactic governance, but recent successes with measured integration had demonstrated the value of coordinated development strategies.
Ambassador Mitchell supported the proposal enthusiastically.
Prince Chen, this could revolutionize how galactic civilization manages technological progress.
Instead of fearing human expansion, species could embrace controlled advancement.
The Integration Council vote was scheduled for the following month, requiring Marcus to build support among species that had previously opposed human partnerships. His reputation as a successful mediator provided credibility, but the proposal represented a fundamental change in galactic governance structures. The challenge would test everything he had learned during his transformation from exiled prince to galactic diplomat. Success could establish frameworks for peaceful cooperation that would benefit every species in known space. Failure might trigger renewed conflict as rapid technological change continued without guidance or coordination. The final debate for the Integration Council proposal took place in the largest chamber the Galactic Council possessed.
Representatives from 89 species attended, the highest participation in galactic governance history.
Marcus stood before the assembly, no longer the invisible janitor or exiled prince, but a recognized voice for measured progress and peaceful cooperation. The chamber buzzed with tension as opposing factions prepared their arguments. The Traditional Governance Alliance, led by Ambassador Vextar, argued that existing institutions could manage technological integration without creating new bureaucracies. Progressive species countered that current structures lacked the flexibility to address rapid advancement challenges. Marcus had spent weeks building consensus among moderate species that held the balance of voting power. His strategy focused on practical benefits rather than ideological positions, demonstrating how the Integration Council would solve real problems facing individual civilizations. Distinguished representatives, Marcus began as silence fell across the chamber. 6 months ago, this assembly faced a choice between restricting human expansion or embracing their contributions to galactic civilization. Today, we consider how to manage the accelerating pace of progress the choice has created. The central display activated, showing technological advancement rates across 47 species that had formed partnerships with humanity. The data revealed consistent patterns of rapid development accompanied by social adaptation challenges. The evidence is clear, Marcus continued. Human collaboration accelerates technological advancement, but not all species possess equal capacity for managing rapid change. The Integration Council would provide coordination and support for civilizations adapting to new capabilities.
Elder Zephyr of the Ancient Worlds had agreed to address the assembly, lending enormous credibility to the proposal.
The Elder's presence commanded universal respect as they spoke with the authority of millennia of observation.
Throughout our extensive observations of galactic development, we have identified critical factors that determine whether rapid advancement strengthens or destroys civilizations, Elder Zephyr began.
The proposed Integration Council incorporates wisdom gained from studying thousands of species across multiple galactic cycles. The Ancient World's support carried enormous weight, but opposition remained strong among species that feared losing autonomy to new governance structures. General Corax of the Centaurian Defense League voiced military concerns about centralized technology oversight. The Integration Council could become a bottleneck that slows necessary defensive improvements, General Corax argued. Military technologies require rapid deployment to address emerging threats. Bureaucratic oversight might compromise security. Marcus had anticipated this objection and prepared his response carefully. General, the Integration Council would not restrict military development but would provide coordination to prevent destabilizing arms races.
The goal is managed advancement, not technological stagnation.
The debate continued for hours, with each species voicing specific concerns about how the Council might affect their interests. The Aquatic Alliance worried about restrictions on environmental technologies. The Silicon Confederacy feared limitations on computational advancement.
The plasma beings expressed concerns about energy manipulation oversight. Marcus addressed each concern individually, demonstrating how the Integration Council would support rather than restrict beneficial development.
His 3 years of maintenance work had taught him to understand how different species approached problems, allowing him to craft responses that addressed their unique perspectives. The breakthrough came when Ambassador Quartz of the Crystalline Confederation described their recent partnership experience with humanity in the Kepler sector. The joint mining operation had exceeded all expectations while creating new opportunities for both species. The integration process facilitated by Prince Chen demonstrated how careful coordination enhances rather than limits beneficial cooperation, Quartz testified. Our partnership with humanity would not have succeeded without skilled mediation and gradual implementation protocols. Similar testimonials followed from other species that had participated in human partnerships. The Feathered Worlds praised the measured integration approach that had preserved their cultural values while improving their technological capabilities. The Ilarian Republic described how coordinated development had prevented social disruption during rapid advancement. The personal success stories carried more weight than abstract arguments about governance structures. Representatives could see practical benefits from their colleagues' experiences, making the Integration Council seem less threatening and more supportive. During a brief recess, Marcus received an encrypted message from his father. Emperor Zhao Chen had remained silent throughout the recent galactic developments, allowing his son to operate independently. The communication was brief but significant. The Dragon territories formally endorsed the Integration Council proposal and pledged full support for its implementation. Your path has led to wisdom that serves the galaxy well. The Imperial endorsement provided crucial momentum for the final vote. The Dragon territories commanded respect throughout galactic space, and their support encouraged wavering species to consider the proposal more favorably. When voting commenced, Marcus watched with careful attention as each species announced their position. The Traditional Governance Alliance maintained solid opposition, but progressive species provided strong support. The outcome would depend on moderate civilizations that preferred practical solutions to ideological positions. The Centaurian Defense League surprised everyone by announcing qualified support for the proposal, accepting Marcus's assurances about military technology coordination.
The Aquatic Alliance followed with full endorsement after receiving guarantees about environmental protection priorities.
As the vote tally accumulated, Marcus realized his proposal would pass by a narrow but decisive margin. 54 species voted in favor, 38 opposed, and 12 abstained. The Integration Council was formally established with authority to coordinate technological development across galactic space. The chamber erupted in discussion as representatives processed the implications of the historic vote. Marcus felt a mixture of satisfaction and apprehension as he considered the enormous responsibility ahead. Creating the council was only the beginning. Making it function effectively would require continued diplomacy and careful management.
Ambassador Mitchell approached the Dragon Territories delegation table with evident relief. Prince Chen, humanity owes you an enormous debt.
This council could prevent the conflicts that might have erupted from uncontrolled technological advancement. Marcus considered her words while watching delegates file out of the chamber.
Ambassador, the real work begins now.
We have created a framework for cooperation, but success will depend on how we implement these new structures. Over the following weeks, Marcus worked with representatives from various species to establish Integration Council operations. The body would be headquartered in neutral space between major civilizations, with rotating leadership and specialized committees addressing different aspects of technological development. The ancient worlds agreed to provide historical guidance and analytical support, sharing knowledge they had never offered to galactic institutions. Elder Zephyr would serve as permanent advisor, ensuring the council benefited from millennia of civilizational observation. Human Federation specialists would lead innovation committees, sharing their approaches to rapid problem-solving while learning traditional methods from other species. The combination promised to accelerate beneficial development while maintaining stability. The first major test came sooner than expected.
A previously unknown species, the Voidwalkers, emerged from the galactic edge with technology that defied current understanding of physics.
Their arrival posed questions about how to integrate civilizations with capabilities far beyond galactic norms. The Integration Council's response demonstrated the value of coordinated approach to unprecedented challenges. Instead of individual species attempting independent contact, the Council organized systematic first contact protocols that protected both the Voidwalkers and existing galactic civilization. Marcus found himself appointed as primary liaison with the Voidwalkers, drawing on his experience mediating between different approaches to technology and society. The role required him to understand capabilities that challenged fundamental assumptions about reality while maintaining communication with species across vast developmental gaps. The Voidwalker integration process revealed new possibilities for galactic cooperation. Their mastery of space-time manipulation complemented human innovation techniques and ancient world's wisdom, creating opportunities for advancement that no single species could achieve independently. 6 months after the Integration Council's establishment, Marcus received reports from monitoring stations throughout galactic space. Technological advancement rates had stabilized across member species while social disruption indicators had decreased significantly. The measured integration approach was producing exactly the benefits Elder Zephyr had predicted. The success attracted attention from civilizations beyond current galactic boundaries. Advanced species from neighboring galaxies began establishing contact, interested in the cooperative development model that Earth humans and galactic civilization had created together. Marcus stood in his office, looking out at the bustling council station that had grown around the Integration Council headquarters. Ships from dozens of species docked daily, carrying specialists and resources for joint development projects. The galaxy was changing faster than ever, but in controlled ways that strengthened rather than destabilized existing civilizations. His transformation from Palace Prince to Invisible Janitor to Galactic Mediator had taught him that leadership came in many forms. Traditional authority could accomplish certain goals, but real change often required understanding systems from unexpected perspectives and building bridges between different approaches to common challenges. The communication system chimed with incoming messages from 12 species requesting Integration Council assistance with various development projects. Each represented opportunities to strengthen galactic civilization while demonstrating human innovation techniques to new partners. Marcus smiled as he prepared to tackle another day of mediation and coordination. The galaxy was vast and full of challenges, but it was also filled with species willing to work together for mutual benefit. His unusual path from privileged prince to working-class observer to diplomatic mediator had prepared him to facilitate that cooperation. The future promised continued change and advancement, but also the wisdom to manage progress carefully. Humanity's rapid expansion had initially threatened galactic stability, but proper integration had transformed that threat into the foundation for unprecedented cooperation and mutual prosperity. As Marcus began reviewing the day's requests for assistance, he reflected on how much he had learned from his chosen exile and returned to galactic affairs. The Dragon Emperor's son had found his true calling not in inheriting traditional power, but in creating new frameworks for peaceful progress that served every species in known space. The galaxy was safer, stronger, and more innovative because one prince had chosen to observe from the ground up before rising to lead from an entirely different perspective. Sometimes the most important work happened when no one was watching, and sometimes the greatest leaders emerged from the most unexpected places.